Climate Change and Infectious Diseases. Introduction. Infectious agents, pathogens, exist through a life cycle that involves the entire life of the pathogen from creation to reproduction. Microbes are discussed throughout the article, such as bacteria, viruses, and parasites. These all are related to infectious diseases, and climate change has acted on all three categories. Examples provided in the article include warming sea surface temperatures in coral reefs can inhibit the growth of antibiotic-producing bacteria. This can cause microbial communities to change from mutualistic to pathogenic. With warming temperatures, there is a higher prevalence of infection within communities and organisms. This has been correlated to an increase in cases where viruses persisted and became more harmful to the host cell. Parasites live in or on a host and get their nutrients at the expense of the host it is residing. Parasites are being faced with challenges due to climate change as well, as they are developing to persist outside of the host. Predicting the consequences of climate change on infectious agents are that it is predicted that with rising temperatures, infectious diseases will become more prevalent. Warmer temperatures will allow for pathogens to be more successful at infecting their host, as host immunity will decrease with rising temperature conditions. Conservation will begin to face consequences, as rising temperatures are predicted to cause extinctions directly from the changing climate, as well as the increase in interactions with infectious diseases. Ecophysiology of host-pathogen interactions are that a host-pathogen relationship involves the interaction of a pathogen with a host that ultimately causes infection. This infection leads to the development of disease in the host. Increasing temperatures are having an effect on organisms, as warmer temperatures are speeding up invertebrate development, however shortening the lifespan, creating an inverse relationship. Research also demonstrates that warmer temperatures can alter host immunity, lowering their chance of survival. The article provides an example of this. Melanization and phagogenic cell activity are depressed at higher temperatures on page 514.
Ecophysiology of host-pathogen interactions. The metabolic theory of ecology is the approach that shows species-specific survival parameters based on relations between metabolism, ambient temperature, and body size to predict responses to climate warming. The MTE model is used alongside the epidemiological model to predict general responses of observed temperature dependence and parasite stages. Community ecology, biodiversity, and climate change. Community ecology following climate change. Most community responses stem from tropical marine systems, which are known as disease hotspots, because of their rapid increase in temperature. For example, new pathogens have arisen in the Caribbean due to a rise in temperature causing coral declines and in turn disrupting an entire ecosystem. How keystone species hosts can create an ecological impact. The declines in seagrass, a keystone species, in the tropics caused by an infection which had a positive correlation with global warming has degraded nursery habitats for fish and has caused the extinction of the eelgrass limpet.
Community ecology, biodiversity, and climate change. Commensal microbes form relationships where one organism benefits from the other without harming that organism. Mutualistic microbes form relationships in which both organisms benefit from each other. And the rising temperatures could affect the diversity and function of both commensal and mutualistic microbes, causing an increase in pest outbreaks and pathogen growth. The effects of biodiversity loss at local and regional scales can increase the transmission rate for pathogens in both animals and humans.
Warming climate change has had shifts on behavior, movement, and phenology of hosts and parasites. What is phenology? Phenology monitors the interactions as well as relationships amongst plants, pollinators, predators, herbivores, and species various movements. Warming climate change has also had a trend and impacted migration and migratory species. It has influenced disease transmission by shifting the distribution of hosts and pathogens. Warming climate has also caused phenological changes in pathogenic life cycles. It has caused parasites to come in contact with each other at earlier, later, or never before seen times, which, as a result, has increased the development of new diseases as well as the outbreak of them. Climate change has also had an impact on the developmental stages of parasites. Warming climate change affects invertebrate development by accelerating it, causing them to hatch at earlier and never before seen rates, while simultaneously this shortens their lifespan because they are coming in contact now that they're hatching earlier with predators as well as hosts that they would not encounter before. This has increased the disease spread amongst humans and wildlife.
Consequences for conservation and human health. Some wildlife diseases have the potential to directly infect humans. This transmission can occur through various routes, such as contact with infected animals, consumption of contaminated food or water, or exposure to organisms carrying the disease. Wildlife diseases can also have indirect effects on human populations through economic losses. For example, diseases affecting wild animal populations can devastate agricultural sectors if they spill over to domesticated animals. Diseases can disrupt ecological systems by affecting wildlife populations in their interactions. This can have cascading effects on ecosystem services that are essential for human well-being, such as pollination, pest control, and nutrient cycling. Climate change can influence the prevalence and distribution of wildlife diseases. Rising temperatures and changing environmental conditions may expand the geographic range of disease and alter the dynamics of host-pathogen interactions. Wildlife diseases contribute to declines in wildlife populations, leading to biodiversity loss. This loss can have cascading effects on ecosystem stability, resilience, and functioning, which in turn can impact human well-being by affecting ecosystem services. Diseases affecting key wildlife species can disrupt ecological processes and relationships within ecosystems. This disruption can lead to imbalances in predator-prey dynamics, changes in habitat structure, and alterations in species composition. Wildlife diseases pose particular threats to endangered and vulnerable species. Disease outbreaks can exacerbate population declines and hinder conservation efforts aimed at recovering threatened species. Forecasting models can provide early warning systems for disease outbreaks in wildlife populations. This allows for proactive management and intervention measures to mitigate the impact of wildlife and human health. Forecasting and modeling provide valuable information for policy development and decision-making processes related to wildlife management, conservation, and public health.
Outlook and future challenges. Mechanistic models and drivers predict that malaria will spread into higher geographic ranges and latitudes. Climate change and disease risk across different systems, as previously stated, the risk of contracting malaria in higher latitudes is steadily increasing, and climate variability does alter disease risk. Climate-disease interactions and their implications on other aspects of climate change. The climate-disease interactions are increasing. Rates of replication, development, and transmission of these pathogens depend strongly on temperature. We're excited.